Finding the best iPad for yourself is not an easy task, especially for drawing. So many options and variations, and such a limited amount of money in a wallet. So how to define the best and most cost-efficient model for yourself? Today, I'm going to show you my way of choosing an iPad and the research I've made for that with some formulas and tables. This will be a super specific video of how to choose an iPad for drawing in Procreate. Oh, and a disclaimer, I will be focusing on the most cost-efficient models because I'm cheap. So let's start with the basic stuff like the screen size. Right now, Apple suggests several versions of screen sizes. Honestly, the difference is like 2 inches between the biggest size and the smaller sized iPad. So, kinda no difference. They are basically the same. And I don't want to talk about this boy because, let's be real, if you can afford it, you don't need this video. Just go and buy it. You're a very rich person. And the iPad mini is too mini, so I'm not counting it also. So the screen size isn't the most important criteria when we choose an iPad. Let's move to our tool choice and talk about an Apple Pencil. So this one is a bit more interesting. Right now we have 3 options here: first generation, second generation, and Pro. I'm not gonna talk about this little trashy, useless boy because it doesn't have pressure sensitivity. And we're planning to make some art here and not just poke a screen with a stick. First generation is for usual cheaper iPads. Second gen is for older Air and Pro versions. And Apple Pencil Pro is for new iPad Air and the iPad Pro. Second gen Pencil and Pro Pencil are light and they are super easy to charge. It just snaps to the iPad and that's all. It's charging. So in reality, you'll never have a second gen Pencil and Pro Pencil with low battery. Also, the difference between the second gen Pencil and Pro Pencil are really small. Pro supports hovering feature. It's when you see the exact placement of the cursor and you can squeeze the pencil to switch tools or something like that. Fun features, but honestly, Apple Pencil has a really great precision and the iPad screen has multi-touch. So I've actually, with my second gen Pencil, I never had a need to this hover feature or pencil squeezing, but I've never used the Pro Pencil. Maybe I would change my mind if I tried it, who knows. First gen Pencil, on the other hand, weighs more, and honestly speaking, you'll have to put it on charge every time you're not using it, because it loses battery, even if it just lies there in the corner, motionless. I had a lot of moments with this pencil when I really wanted to draw, but the battery inside of pencil was dead, so yeah. And yeah, it charges really fast, but still the whole situation is kinda annoying. The charging method also looks really funny. You either need to turn your iPad into a popsicle or get some stuff from Shane for your adapter so you won't lose it. But seriously speaking, all pencils are really amazing for drawing and they all do their job extremely well. I've been using both the first gen pencil and the second gen pencil for a very long time, and the only difference I found for myself was in the way of charging. But please check which pencil works with which iPad before buying anything, especially if you're buying older iPads. Compatibility became very confusing last year. Next, we're gonna talk about the screen type. But before that, I want to explain why I chose Procreate and why am I focusing so much on it. The answer is actually really simple. It's just an amazing program for drawing. I basically reject all the Android tablets just because they don't have Procreate on them. I've used Photoshop for drawing for my whole life, and I should say that Procreate has all the features I need from Photoshop, and it works amazingly fast. And it always saves all the strokes you make automatically, so you never lose your progress, even if the program decides to crash or something. This is so helpful. And if you are just learning to draw on the iPad or you want to improve your skills faster, I can highly recommend you the Skillshare. You can find classes on how to use Procreate there. I found several really short and easy ones right away. I especially like this one because in the end you get your own picture with the mushrooms while learning the program. I think it's amazing. And you can also share the results of the class or see what others did. You can also find some simple drawing tutorials for beginners in there and advanced ones for faster skill improvement. They have tons of classes on animation, illustration, and design and everything else. I particularly really enjoyed exploring different animation tutorials in After Effects because I love doing little animations when I have time, so I wanted to find out if there is something new in the After Effects animation I can learn. So I found this class on character animation for facial expressions, and I think it will be super helpful for my next animation project. Always wanted to try this rigging technique. Skillshare is the largest online learning community with thousands of classes about almost everything. They have classes at beginner and advanced level. Classes on the platform are made by industry experts as well as your favorite creators on YouTube and Instagram. Use the link in the description or the comment section to get your free trial and speed up your learning process. The first 500 people to click my link in the description will get 1 month free trial of Skillshare. Thanks Skillshare for sponsoring this video. Now let's talk about the screen type. The usual iPad has a glass display. It gives a little bit of visible distance between the artwork and the pen, but you get used to it really fast and it's not bothering you while you're drawing. iPad Air and iPad Pro doesn't have that distance. You're drawing right on the screen. It gives you some additional precision and feels a bit more like a traditional art because of that. Now let's move to the more technical part of this question and a little backstory. For around 4 years, I've been using the usual iPad 2018 6th generation and Procreate as my main drawing program. Then, 2 years ago, I suddenly felt an extreme desire to upgrade my grandpa iPad, mostly because of the limited amount of layers in Procreate. After watching a lot of review videos, I still had no idea what iPad to choose, so I've decided to conduct my own little research. And it turned out that the amount of layers in Procreate depends mostly on the RAM in your iPad. So I usually use the canvas size A4 with 300 dpi, and it's the great size if you want to print your artwork in the future. And Procreate on my old iPad allowed me to use only 19 layers with this size, as the 2018 version of iPad had only 2 GB of RAM. And the basic rule is, the more RAM your iPad has, the more layers you're gonna have in Procreate. So if you're gonna use your iPad mostly for drawing and the amount of layers is important for you, the RAM becomes one of the main criteria of choosing your perfect iPad. And if you want to get the most out of your investment, you'll want to get an iPad with the biggest amount of RAM for the least amount of money. To determine that, I've conducted a very specific research. I've made an Excel table with all the current iPad models which Apple has. With the cheapest version of each model, as I don't care about the storage here, I've put the prices in the table and the amount of RAM for each model. And with a simple mathematical formula, we have a price of 1 GB of RAM in each iPad, because it's the only important factor for us if we need an iPad specifically for drawing in Procreate. And here we have our winner. 1 GB of RAM here costs only $75, and the most expensive gigabyte of RAM is in the iPad Pro. But when I bought my iPad Air 5, it turned out that it's not the perfect method, as I actually expected to have 4 times more layers, which is 76 layers, but I got 116 for my A4 resolution canvas with 300 dpi, which is 6 times more layers. So I was determined to improve my research. I've asked my followers on Instagram about what iPad they have and how many layers are there for the A4 paper canvas size. By the way, thank you so much for participating and contributing to the art science. And I got the most striking discovery for myself. Most iPads have a maximum of 116 layers in Procreate, as they mostly have 8 GB of RAM. That literally means if you want to upgrade your iPad for the bigger amount of layers, you don't need to buy anything more expensive than an iPad Air 6. Only the new iPad Pros with 16 GB of RAM will have around 200 layers, and their price starts with $1,600. It's kind of pricey. So now we can define the price for 1 layer in Procreate. Well, when I put it that way, it feels too expensive. $100 for 10 layers? But anyway, let's continue. And we have our winner and the opposite of the winner. So here I can make a conclusion that unless you want like an extra 100 layers and you're ready to pay for them like several $100s, from a Procreate perspective, there is no reason to get a Pro version. You won't miss anything if you get an Air. I think it's the best choice for drawing. Okay, let's move to the least important criteria for an artist, the storage. For me, 32 gigabytes of storage on my usual iPad were enough for me for 4 years, but I've used my iPad only for drawing, no games, nothing else. And I send my artworks from Procreate to PC through Google Drive from time to time for the proper backup because I don't want to lose my artworks, if anything. So I chose the smallest amount of storage for my iPad Air 5 when I got it. My average size of an artwork is around 400 megabytes. They're quite chunky. So minus OS and other apps, I can fit around 100 complicated artworks on my 64 gigabyte iPad. The sketches weigh less, of course, so you can fit even more of those in there, but your idea of the perfect iPad can be different from mine. And the storage space might be important for you. So I've extended the table a bit, put more iPad versions in there, added the storage, and defined how much would cost 1 gigabyte of space for each tablet. Of course, these are not the only things you should take into the consideration while choosing your iPad. Maybe you want to play games on it, or montage the videos, or anything else. Or maybe you want a specific size of your iPad because the bigger version won't fit in your backpack. Or you want a specific color or the screen. You get it. But these are very individual things you'll have to decide for yourself. So choose wisely. In this video, I try to make a guide on how to choose an iPad from the artist's perspective, who is also drawing only in Procreate. To summarize the most important things, in my very personal opinion, RAM influences the amount of layers you're gonna have in Procreate, but it's tricky. In my opinion, you can take an iPad with the smallest amount of storage if you're gonna use it only for drawing. But it depends on many factors, so here it's on you. The difference in Apple Pencil 1st Gen and second one in Pro, mostly in a way of charging, that's all. Basically. Laminated display feels a little bit better than the glass one, but it will cost more dollars, of course. So here I suggest you to rely mostly on your budget. If you have an opportunity to buy the refurbished version of the iPad, or a second-hand tablet, or an older version, you can use this table to find out if it's gonna be a better deal. You are very welcome to continue my research, or adapt it to your situation and country, as I'm leaving this table for you to download and play. Hope you'll find it helpful. By the way, this year I'm waiting for new usual iPads. I don't think there will be any new iPad Pros or Air this year, but you can still put the new iPads in the table when they come out and investigate the best deal for yourself. Maybe it's not the perfect method, I know, but it's better than pure assumptions and specifications of the model. I tried to make it as detailed as I could. And you can also check how many layers you usually use to make a decision. In my opinion, the best and most cost-efficient iPad for drawing right now is an iPad Air 6, 11 inches. 256 gigabyte of storage. All of its characteristics are in the green zone. It has the cheaper RAM, the cheaper layer in Procreate, and a lot of cheap storage. Its display is laminated, so there is no distance between the pen and the drawing when you draw. For the iPad Air 6, you'll need an Apple Pencil Pro. It snaps magnetically to the iPad to charge, so it's very convenient. So basically it has all the perks of the iPad Pro, but for less money. By the way, if you want to get access to all of my brushes, poses, references, and step-by-step tutorials, consider supporting me on Patreon.
Thank you for your patronage!
So here is my guide for the iPads. If I wanted to buy an iPad this year, I would choose either iPad Air 6 11 inches with 256 gigabytes of storage, or the usual iPad 10th generation with 64 gigabytes of storage. I think these two models are the best value for money options. Hope you'll find this video helpful, and I'll see you next time. Bye!